The smell of rotting wood hit me the moment I woke up. Pain lanced through my chest, forcing my eyes open. The broken roof let the wind in. Thin shafts of sunlight slanted through the gaps and fell on a battered wooden table beside me. One corner chipped away. I tried to push myself up, but my body had no strength left. Looking down, I saw a pair of unfamiliar hands, pale, thin, with knuckles that stood out sharply. My chest was wrapped in blood-stained cloth. What? The word barely left my mouth before a flood of foreign memories crashed into my mind. Pain slammed through my consciousness like a tidal wave. When it finally subsided, everything made sense. My name is Shinyen. I used to be an ordinary young man from the modern world. Every day was a grind, work stress, mortgage payments, car loans. But an accident changed everything. When I woke up again, I was the youngest son of the Shin family in the Great Qian dynasty, the surviving child of a family that had just been wiped out and branded as traitors. The Shins were once one of the most powerful military houses in Great Qian. My father, Qin Tianwei, was the Grand General of the Northern Front, holding the border for over 20 years. My 10 nominal elder brothers were not my blood kin. They were orphans my father had taken in from the battlefields. He raised them himself, treated them as his own sons. When they grew up, each commanded their own troops. The world called them the 10 Tigers of Shin. They married. 10 women married into the family as daughters-in-law. All these years, the Shin family had only one blood descendant, me, but 10 fiercely loyal adopted brothers who guarded the family's honor together. Until half a month ago, war erupted on the northern border. The 10 Tigers led the army to meet the enemy. They had the advantage, but at the critical moment, they received a secret decree from the imperial court. It ordered them to pull back from the front line and hold a defensive position instead. They obeyed. They withdrew, and walked straight into an ambush. In a single night, all 10 of the Shin Tigers fell in battle. When my father learned of it, he personally went to the military camp to investigate. Instead, he was accused of colluding with the enemy. The court ordered his entire family executed and all properties confiscated. Hundreds of years of the Shin family's legacy, gone in one night. Before he was taken away, my father risked everything to smuggle out a secret letter, sending me to the ancestral home. That was the only reason I survived. Now the only one left of the Shin family was me, and the 10 sisters-in-law guarding a crumbling ancestral estate. I leaned against the wall, silent for a long time. My past life was that of an ordinary man, but now I carried the burden of a family slaughtered unjustly. Someone out there wanted the Shin family erased completely, but they miscalculated one thing. There was still one Shin left alive. Me. Then, a cold voice cut through my thoughts. Detected bloodline descendant of the Shin family. Bloodline heritage system successfully bound. My body went rigid. A translucent panel materialized before my eyes. Host. Shinyen identity. Last hereditary heir of the Shin family. Current realm. Mortal body system ability. Bloodline heritage rule. Form bonds with core Shin family members to receive bloodline feedback. Enhance cultivation. And unlock abilities. Initial binding reward. Body tempering pill. I stared at the panel for a moment. A lesser man might have thought he'd lost his mind. But after experiencing transmigration, I accepted this new reality quickly. In chaotic times, status means nothing without strength to back it up. The Shin family had fallen. If I wanted to uncover the truth, if I wanted justice for my father and brothers, words alone would get me nowhere. I picked up the body tempering pill and swallowed it. Heat flooded through me instantly, like flames burning through every limb and bone. My shattered meridians began to mend. My bones gave faint cracks. In moments, I felt like a brand new body had replaced my old one. Strength surged. Senses sharpened. I could even hear footsteps outside the house. Faint and soft. You've been hiding long enough. Time to come out. Don't you think? A stranger's voice. My eyes went cold. I pushed open the door. Several men stood in the courtyard. At their head was a burly thug with a coarse, fleshy face. Joe Man, the notorious bully of Blackwater Town. Back when the Shin family was at its peak, he'd crossed the street to avoid them. Now that the family had fallen, he was the first to come and kick them while they were down. Joe Man looked me over head to toe. Well, still alive. The Shins are traitors now. What use is a young master like you? I met his gaze. What do you want? Joe Man grinned. Simple. Your house has no men left to protect it. Those 10 Shin widows staying here? That's a waste. Hand them over. Give me whatever valuables are left in this place. I might just let you live. As the words left his mouth, footsteps sounded from behind the courtyard gate. 10 women stood there. Their clothes were plain. Their faces showed exhaustion, but not one of them lowered her head. The woman at the front was Wen Wanqing, wife of my eldest brother, Xin Chengyuan. She used to run the entire Shen household. With the family fallen, she still held everyone together. Zhou Man, the Shen family still has people here. You don't get to bully us. Zhou Man sneered. Madam Wen, you used to be the eldest daughter-in-law of the Shen family. Now, you're all just relatives of a condemned traitor. In times like these, people without power are lucky to even breathe. I stepped forward. Are you done? Zhou Man blinked. Then he burst out laughing. You, a sickly whelp like you, talking to me? His fist came flying at me, carrying real force behind it. My body moved instinctively, sidestepping. The punch grazed my shoulder. The next moment, I grabbed his arm. No brute strength. Instead, I used his forward momentum, twisting hard. Zhou Man's face twisted in pain. A scream tore out of him. I drove a kick into his gut. He stumbled back several steps and crashed to the ground. A few of his men started forward, then froze as a cold gleam flashed. Chu Lingshuang had drawn her blade. She was my second sister-in-law, wife of my second brother, Xin Chenglai. She'd fought alongside her husband for years. Of the 10 sisters-in-law, she was the only one who'd truly been on a battlefield. Anyone moves, dies. The cold words stopped them in their tracks. Zhou Man clutched his arm, staring at me in disbelief. He never expected the frail young man to have strength like that. I walked up to him. Go back and tell everyone. The Shen family isn't dead. Shen Tianyue's son is still alive. Anyone who dares to bully the Shins, I'll make them pay. Zhou Man and his men fled in disgrace. The courtyard fell silent again. But my body was already screaming a warning. That attack had cost too much. The body-tempering pill had changed me. But it hadn't made me a master overnight. I forced myself to stay upright until I got back inside. Then I slid down against the wall. When Wanqing walked over, she looked at me, shock and something complicated in her eyes. Xinyan, why have you changed so suddenly? I was quiet for a moment. Because I'm all the Shins have left. I had to change. Her eyes flickered. After a long pause, she said softly, your father told us, before he died, to trust you. I always thought of you as someone the Shen family needed to protect. But now, maybe the Shen family has finally found its new master. Deep in the night, after everyone had gone to rest, the system appeared again. Detected preliminary bond established between host and Wen Wanqing. Reward technique. Dragon Phoenix Unity Art. Begin cultivation? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I looked at Wen Wanqing, seated across from me. I told her about the Shen family's ancestral technique. I told her it required 2 people to cultivate together. She was silent for a long time. She thought of her fallen husband and the massacre of the Shen family. At last, she nodded. Xinyan, those of us still alive, we all carry burdens. I believe in you. The technique began to circulate. Our auras slowly merged. My cultivation rose again. The system panel shifted. When Wanqing bond increased. Reward. Frost Lament Blade. A long saber materialized in my hand. Cold steel. Its edge held in stillness. That night, for the first time, I felt like I truly had the power to change my fate. The next morning, when Wanqing counted the remaining grain, there's only enough for 2 days. I looked at the 10 sisters-in-law in the courtyard, at the crumbling ancestral home. My decision was already made. I would go out, earn wealth, build strength, find the truth behind my father's and brothers' deaths. Chu Lingshuang stood at the gate, her long blade in hand. I'm coming with you. I shook my head. Stay. They need you more. She held my gaze for a long moment. Then she nodded. Don't worry. As long as I'm here, no one touches the Shins. I strapped the Frost Lament blade to my back and pushed open the gates of the ancestral home. The road ahead, Xingyan's path through the chaos, had begun. I left the Shen ancestral estate just as dawn was breaking. When Wanqing stood at the gate and pressed a bundle of dried rations into my hands. Xinyan, remember one thing. You're not alone anymore. I looked at her. Her eyes were calm, but I knew that calm was built on everything she and the other women had endured, going from wives of a general's household to destitute relatives of condemned traitors. They hadn't wept. They hadn't run. They'd simply held on to the last shred of the Shen family's dignity. I tucked away the rations. Sister-in-law, I'll make the Shen stand again. When Wanqing didn't answer, She only nodded. Chu Lingshuang stood by with her blade, watching me with new eyes. Xin Yan, yesterday, when you took down Zhou Man, your strength and reactions weren't like before. What happened to you? I paused. Second sister-in-law. There are things I can't tell you yet. She studied me. She was someone who'd survived the battlefield, far sharper than most. But in the end, she just looked away. I'll wait until you're ready. Anyone bearing the Shin name, I trust. Those words struck something in me. I turned and left. The most urgent matter was survival. Food, money, strength. None of them could be missing. Beyond Blackwater Town lay a stretch of mountain ridges. There used to be hunters and herb gatherers in those hills. But in recent years, as the Empire descended further into chaos, deserters, refugees, and outlaws banded together and formed mountain gangs. The most notorious of them was Blackwind Ridge. I'd been in the mountains for 2 hours without finding suitable prey. I was about to push deeper when I heard raised voices up ahead. Old man, hand over the money for your herbs. Otherwise you're not coming down this mountain. I followed the sound. 5 men surrounded an old man, who clutched a medicine basket, his face pale. Kind sirs, he pleaded, this is for my granddaughter's treatment. Please, leave us a way to live. One of the men kicked the basket over. A way to live? In this world? Who's giving anyone a way to live? I frowned and walked over. Pick that up. The men turned. They saw me, paused, then laughed. Where'd this rich boy come from? Carrying a blade too? Looks like today's our lucky day. I didn't draw my weapon. I just looked at them. Leave, the leader sneered. Boy, you know who we are. We're Blackwind Ridge. You sure you want a medal? The words hit me. So these bastards were Blackwind Ridge. The next moment, the man yanked out his knife and charged. I sidestepped, driving a fist into his chest. He staggered back a few steps, but didn't go down. I frowned. His body was tougher than your average street trash. So Blackwind Ridge wasn't just a bunch of nobodies. The rest of them rushed me at once. I didn't trade blows blindly. I used the narrow mountain path to my advantage, moving fast, breaking their encirclement, picking them off one by one. Moments later, all 5 lay on the ground. One of them gasped out, You dare touch us. Blackwind Ridge won't let this go. I looked down at him. Tell me, how many men does Blackwind Ridge have? His face changed, but he stayed silent. I searched him and found a waist token etched with the character for black, and half of an unusual bronze tiger tally. This wasn't the sort of thing common bandits carried. I pocketed the token and let them go. They weren't the real target. Blackwind Ridge was. Following the old man's directions, I made my way to the outer edge of Blackwind Ridge. In the distance, the stronghold was built into the mountainside, guards at the gate, hidden watchtowers above. More men than I'd expected, at least 100. Many wore standard-issue leather armor. These weren't ordinary bandits. I didn't rush in. I hid and observed. Soon I noticed something. The internal discipline was strict. Some men handled patrols. Some kept records of goods. There were even dedicated warehouse guards. This didn't look like simple robbery. This looked like a private force hiding in the mountains. That night, the stronghold lit up. Several leaders gathered in the main hall. I crept close and listened. These goods need to ship out ASAP. The ones above are getting impatient. Once the Shin business is finished, no one in Blackwater Town will dare cross us. The name Shin made my blood run cold. So Blackwind Ridge was connected to the Shin family massacre. Just a fragment of words, but enough to confirm it. I didn't wait any longer. I grabbed a rock from the ground and hurled it at a distant brazier. Sparks scattered everywhere. The stronghold erupted into chaos. Attack! In the confusion, I disposed of the outer guards quickly and slipped into the stronghold. But this time, things weren't so simple. The moment I entered the main hall, steel flashed toward my face. I twisted aside. A hulking man stood before me, sword in hand. Bold of you to break into Blackwind Ridge. I stared at him. Who are you? He gripped his blade. Second chief of Blackwind Ridge. Duan Hu. He was far stronger than Zhou Man. Every strike carried killing intent. This was my first taste of real combat pressure. His blade grazed my shoulder. Fabric tore. Blood ran. Duan Hu sneered. That all you've got? I didn't answer. I gripped the frost lament blade, and drew it for the first time in earnest. Cold light flashed. Killing intent exploded outward. Duan Hu's expression changed. He tried to retreat. Too late. One strike sent his weapon flying. A palm slammed into his chest. He staggered backward and spat out a mouthful of blood. At that moment, Power surged through me. Battle breakthrough. Host realm increased. Current realm. Body tempering. Second stage. I felt my body strengthen again. Speed, power, both noticeably sharper. The remaining bandits finally panicked. They tried to flee, but these men had innocent blood on their hands. I didn't let a single one go. Half an hour later, Blackwind Ridge went quiet. I made my way to the deepest part of the stronghold. According to Duan Hu, there was a hidden chamber. I opened the stone door. Inside were piles of valuables, gold, silver, jewelry, jade, and several chests full of ledgers. I opened one. It was full of transaction records. One name made me stop. Shin Tianwei. My father's name. Next to it, an annotation. Shin family military grain route. My fingers tightened on the page. So this wasn't a simple frame-up after all. Blackwind Ridge was just one piece on the board. The system blinked. Clue discovered regarding the Shin family's old case. Main quest unlocked. Quest. Investigate the truth behind the Shin family's fall. Reward. Unlock storage space. In the next heartbeat, an independent space appeared in my consciousness. I stored everything, gold, silver, ledgers inside, then took what game I'd caught and headed home. I returned to the ancestral estate at dawn the next day. The 10 sisters-in-law were stunned when they saw what I'd brought back. Chu Lingshuang immediately checked my wounds. You're hurt. Where were you? I met her eyes. I didn't hide it. Blackwind Ridge? The gang there. I dealt with them. The courtyard went still. When Wan Qing looked at me, Xinyan, what did you find? I pulled out the ledger. Father's death. It might be connected to Blackwind Ridge. Everyone's expression changed. In that moment, they understood. I hadn't gone out just to find food. I'd gone out to find the truth for the Shin family. Then, hoofbeats. A man rode up to the gates with a dozen armed guards behind him. His face was dark. Xinyan, you had the nerve to touch Blackwind Ridge's people. You really don't know who you've crossed. Do you? I recognized him. Zhou Lai, Zhou Man's older brother. One of the biggest merchants in Blackwater Town. But looking at the men behind him, I realized his reach went far deeper than that. When Zhou Lai dismounted outside the Shin ancestral home, the first thing I noticed wasn't his face. It was the men behind him. A dozen guards split into 2 lines, their footfalls steady, hands resting habitually near their weapons. I'd seen that stance before, in the Shin family army. These weren't house guards. These men had seen real combat. Zhou Lai swung off his horse and fixed his eyes on me. Xinyan, you're getting bolder by the day. I stood in the courtyard and didn't answer. He continued, Blackwind Ridge took years to build. It held a lot of things. Some people wanted those things to stay. Others wanted them gone. You destroyed the ridge, and took what wasn't yours. I understood what he was really saying. This wasn't about avenging his brother Zhou Man. He was testing me. Zhou Lai, I said, you're a merchant. What's a businessman doing tangled up with bandits? He laughed once. So you've already found something. And what good does that do you? The Shin family's finished. You're just some nobody who survived. I looked at him. If I'm just a nobody, why did you bring so many men? Zhou Lai's expression flickered. The guards tightened their grips on their weapons. Tension snapped taut. When Wan Qing and Chu Lingshuang moved behind me. When Wan Qing murmured, Xinyan, be careful. These men aren't like Zhou Man's thugs. I nodded. I didn't need the warning. I could already feel the pressure. The man standing at the front of Zhou Lai's escort carried an aura far heavier than an ordinary fighter's. He was the real expert here. Zhou Lai watched me. Hand over what you took from Blackwind Ridge. I'll let you leave Blackwater Town alive. I smiled. Leave? Why would the Shins leave our own land? Zhou Lai's face darkened. So you don't want to talk? The big man stepped forward. Young master, let me handle this. Zhou Lai didn't stop him. He just stepped back. Don't kill him. I want to see exactly how much this little Shin master is hiding. The man drew his blade and pointed it at me. Boy, you carry the Shin blood. But on a real battlefield, having the surname doesn't make you a soldier. I gripped the frost lament. I didn't strike first. The fights over the past few days had taught me something. The system could lend me power, but true combat experience had to be earned. The man charged. Fast, the blade arcing straight for my shoulder. I sidestepped and swept my blade across. Steel clashed. The impact numbed my arm. My heart sank. This man was stronger than Duan Hu, the second chief of Blackwind Ridge. Not an ordinary martial artist, a real military expert. We traded a dozen exchanges. I was slipping. His blade work was wide and brutal. every movement stamped with the kill or be killed logic of the battlefield. The blade came down again. The system pinged. Detected host under military-style martial arts attack. Analysis complete. Basic military combat arts acquired. Techniques flooded into my mind. I changed tactics. No more trading force for force. I used the disarming and redirecting principles of the military arts, deflecting the edge, striking at openings. 3 exchanges later, my palm slammed into his chest. He staggered back several steps, his face finally shifting. How do you know the Shin Army's fighting style? I didn't answer, because I didn't know myself. Maybe it was the Shin bloodline coming through. Zhou Lai saw it. His eyes turned serious for the first time. Let's go. The big man retreated instantly. I didn't pursue. Killing Zhou Lai now would be pointless. He was a pawn. The real power controlling Blackwind Ridge hadn't shown itself yet. Before leaving, Zhou Lai turned to look at me. Shin Yan, you'd better hope you haven't uncovered too much. If you have, the fate of the Shin family is the fate waiting for you. The hoofbeats faded. The courtyard fell quiet again. Chu Lingshuang studied my back. For a long time. She said nothing. That guard, she finally said. He used to be border army. I nodded. I know. She frowned. The man behind Zhou Lai is more trouble than we thought. When Wan Qing picked up the ledger I'd brought back from Blackwind Ridge, paged through it, her face gradually tightened. Shin Yan, look at this. I went over. The ledger recorded a shipment of military grain. One name made my hand stop. Black Tortoise Battalion. The grain route my father used to command. And next to it, a blurred seal mark, like some kind of official stamp. When Wan Qing said quietly, if this is real, your father's case might not have been a border defeat at all. I stared at the ledger, my certainty hardening. The fall of the Shin family had to be part of something far bigger. But right now, I wasn't strong enough to face those people directly. I needed to build my own power first. That night, we took stock of everything from Blackwind Ridge. Besides gold and silver, there were deeds for shops and properties. When Wan Qing analyzed the ledgers and found Blackwind Ridge hadn't just robbed people over the years, they'd also controlled underground trades, grain stores, medicine shops, and several trading houses. The assets couldn't be turned into fast cash, but they were enough for the Shin family to make a fresh start. When Wan Qing looked at the list, these need a steady hand to manage. Handled right, they're enough to restore the family's basic income. I looked at her. Eldest sister-in-law. This is yours. She blinked. Me? I used to be the matriarch of the Shin house. Now, I cut her off. The Shin family lost its position, not its capabilities. She held my gaze. Slowly, her eyes steadied. All right, I'll hold these for you. With money settled, a new problem surfaced. The ancestral home was too small. 10 sisters-in-law and me, all crammed in here. We couldn't even guarantee our own safety, let alone train guards in the future. I needed a place that was truly the Shin's. The next day, I took Wan Qing to the largest property firm in Blackwater Town. The manager looked nervous the moment he saw us. The Shin's status was too sensitive. Nobody wanted to get involved. But when I put down a portion of the gold taken from Blackwind Ridge, his attitude changed fast. Master Shin, he said, what sort of property are you looking for? I didn't beat around the bush. Something large enough. Big enough to house the entire Shin family. The manager hesitated, then pulled out an old map. There is one place. It used to belong to the Northern Garrison General's mansion. Very large, training grounds, armory, a medicine hall. More than a dozen courtyards. However, he paused. That property is sensitive. After its previous owner was convicted, no one dared take it. I unrolled the map. There it was, the old northern estate. My finger traced the words. This had once belonged to the Shins. Now I would make it theirs again. How much? The manager named a price, well above market value. Because it wasn't just property. It was a statement. I opened the chest, laid out the gold. Done. He looked at the gold, then at me. Master Shin, are you sure? I folded the map. Absolutely. The Shins belong in their own house. As I left the firm, I glanced back at Blackwater Town. From today onward, the Shin family wasn't just surviving. We were rebuilding. The doors of the old northern estate swung open with a groan from dust-caked hinges. I stood at the threshold, looking at the mansion that had once belonged to my family. This was where the Shin army's banners had flown, where my father had inspected the training grounds, where my 10 brothers had honed their blade work. Now there was only desolation and silence. The property manager stood beside me, speaking carefully. Master Shin, this estate has been abandoned for years. Much of it will need repair, but the deed is transferred. From today, this is yours. I nodded. I appreciate your help. After he left, I led my 10 sisters-in-law inside. When Wan Qing walked through, inspecting everything, she paid no attention to the ornamental decor. She was mapping the layout. This can be converted into a grain storehouse. This is suited for storing medicine. The rear courtyard rooms can house the servants. She spoke with total focus. In a short span of time, she'd gone from a woman who'd lost her home to a matriarch running her domain again. I watched her and felt even more certain. Rebuilding the Shins would take more than force of arms. It would take a manager like her. Chuling Shuang made straight for the training grounds. She drew her blade, tested the hardness of the packed earth, then looked at me. Good ground. Room enough to train people properly. I nodded. This is where the Shins take root. That day, I set about organizing the household. First, servants. The old northern estate was too large for a dozen people to maintain, but I didn't just hire anyone. The Shins were in the crosshairs. One bad seed could be a knife in the dark. So for the first intake, I chose from the old and the reliable, common folk who'd once been helped by the Shins. When word spread that the family had returned, many came of their own accord. One old man knelt at the gate. Master Shin, I served in the Shin house. The old general saved my family once. Now that you need hands, I offer mine. I helped him up. The Shins haven't recovered their old scale yet. But anyone who stays, I looked him in the eye, his family. His eyes reddened. I understand, Master Shin. Beyond that, I began searching for retired soldiers. What the Shins needed most wasn't average guards. It was men we could truly trust. A few days later, a group of veterans arrived at the estate. All of them had served on the border and left the army due to wounds or age. Life had treated them poorly since. When they heard the Shins were recruiting guards, they came. Chuling Shuang stood in the center of the training ground, facing dozens of men. Her voice was ice. The Shins keep no dead weight. Want to stay? Prove it. Training began. On the first day, many thought this would be standard guard drill. Chuling Shuang ran it to military standard instead. Stance, footwork, reaction, strength. Everything was retrained from the ground up. Some couldn't take it. Some walked away. But those who stayed grew harder by the day. I watched from the side, knowing I was looking at the Shins' first real force. That night, the system flashed. Detected the founding of the Shin family's new base. Reward. Basic body refining formula. Reward. Weapon forging schematics. I looked at the rewards. It was becoming clear. The system didn't just strengthen me. It was helping me rebuild the entire Shin family. The next day I began overseeing repairs. When Wan Qing handled the finances, Chuling Shuang handled the guards. Each of them took charge of their own domain. The old northern estate slowly came back to life. A month later, the change was plain to see. Overgrown courtyards cleared. Training grounds repaved. Armory reorganized. The Shin Ancestral Hall was being restored as well. One day, Chuling Shuang came to find me. Spar with me. I blinked. Now? She nodded. I want to see how far you've come. We stood facing each other in the training ground. She didn't hold back. Her blade came out, and a fierce wind followed it. Chuling Shuang's sword work was nothing like a civilian martial artist's. Every move came from the battlefield. Simple, direct, meant to kill. I gripped the frost lament and held my ground. After a dozen exchanges, I was starting to match her rhythm. The system chimed. Bond strengthened between host and Chuling Shuang. Dragon Phoenix Unity Art. Dual Cultivation mode unlocked. When the bout ended, she sheathed her blade. You're improving fast, but your foundation still needs work. I smiled. Then I'll be counting on you. Second sister-in-law. She studied me, then nodded once. The Shins, she said, I'll help you hold them up. That night, we began cultivation under the Dragon Phoenix Unity Art. This time, the improvement was far more noticeable. Chuling Shuang carried years of martial foundation, and the feedback flowing into me was richer for it. Chuling Shuang bond increased. Reward. Azure Dragon Force. Power shifted inside me. Before, I'd only had fighting ability. Now, I was truly stepping onto the path of martial mastery. But just as the Shins were stabilizing, something unexpected happened. When Wan Qing collapsed, the house physician's examination brought news that silenced the entire estate. The lady is 2 months pregnant. Everything went still. Everyone stared. When Wan Qing looked down at her own hands, her expression complicated. She was thinking of her dead husband, and of what this meant for the Shin's future. I stood beside her, feelings equally mixed. The system flashed again. Detected continuation of the Shin bloodline. Reward unlocked. Area technique. Azure Dragon Breaker. Host gained area attack ability. I stared at the panel. I understood what this meant. True Shin blood was being carried on. But I also knew the moment this news got out, danger would follow. Because some people would never allow the Shin family to rise again. The news of Wan Qing's pregnancy spread through the old northern estate within the hour. The old servants who heard it had tears in their eyes. They'd waited for this day for a long time. The Shin family once had 10 young generals, each covered in battle honors. A single conspiracy had nearly wiped out every man of the house. Now a new life was coming, for those who'd served the family. This wasn't just a child. It was proof that the Shins still had a future. But I knew the same news meant danger. The people who'd killed my father and 10 brothers would never allow the Shins to have hope again. That night, I called Wan Qing, Chu Lingshuang, and the other sisters-in-law together. No word of Wan Qing's pregnancy leaves this house. Everyone understood. Chu Lingshuang clenched her fist. They'll make a move. I nodded, and they won't wait long. When Wan Qing sat in silence, touching her belly, there was worry in her face, and resolve. Xin Yan, this child is the Shin's hope. We can't let fear steal its future. I looked at her, my own resolve hardening. From the moment I arrived in this world, my goal had been simple. Survive. Uncover the truth. Make the Shin stand again. Now I had another duty. Protecting the life that was coming. The next day, I strengthened the old northern estate's defenses. Walls reinforced. Gate guards doubled. Covert patrol routes set. Chu Lingshuang drilled the guards harder than before. The pregnancy changed nothing in her standards. Remember this, she told them. You're not guarding a building. You're guarding the entire Shin family. On the training ground, dozens of men drilled every day. What had started as a scattered group was now becoming something with discipline, coordination, conviction. I used the body refining formula from the system to help strengthen them. That required money, a lot of it, for rare ingredients. Fortunately, when Wan Qing proved remarkably skilled at running those seized businesses, the grain stores reopened. The medicine shops turned a profit. Several merchant caravans agreed to work with the Shins again. Within a short time, the family's income stabilized. One night, when Wan Qing came to me with the account books, Xin Yan, we have steady income now, but it's nowhere near enough to restore the Shins to their former scale. I nodded. That's why I need to build my own strength. She looked at me. You want to raise an army? I didn't deny it. Not an army. Not yet. But a force that can protect the Shins. In chaotic times, without soldiers, without backing, you were nothing but a leaf in the wind. I would not let the Shins be blown away again. Over the following months, I quietly recruited more veterans. These were men with experience and loyalty, who'd only been waiting for a chance to prove themselves again. Within months, the number of guards at the old northern estate kept growing. Chu Lingshuang organized them into squads with separate duties: patrol, defense, training. The Shins were slowly becoming themselves again. Meanwhile, I never forgot the debt of blood. The ledger from Blackwind Ridge was hidden in the safest place I knew. Every few days, I opened it again, searching for more threads. Finally, in an old account book, I found a hidden record. Before the Shin army's grain was swapped, it had passed through the hands of one man, Wei Chongshan, Vice Minister of Revenue. I memorized the name, but I didn't act on impulse. Right now I had no standing to walk into the imperial court. Behind Wei Chongshan stood the court itself, possibly even the emperor. My path wasn't to throw my life away. It was to build strength, until the day the world could no longer ignore the Shin family. And the truth came to light. One day, I stood atop the highest point of the old northern estate, watching the Shin banner rise over the compound once more. The system spoke. Shin Family Foundation initially established. Bloodline Heritage System entering new phase. Reward: Dragon's Roar Technique. Reward: Investigation Permission Enhanced. I closed my eyes and felt the power building inside me. From a condemned son lying in a broken house, to the man rebuilding the Shin family, this was only the beginning. Father, brothers, the debts you left behind, I'll collect them, one by one, and the Shin's name will ring across the world again. Those who climbed over the Shin's Fallen bodies on their way up will pay. The name Wei Chongshan stuck in me like a splinter. After finding that ledger, I spent a long time gathering evidence. The account books from Blackwind Ridge, the testimonies of the Shin Army's surviving veterans, the old soldiers who'd once managed supply routes, and the half-letter my father had fought to send before his death. Every thread pointed in one direction. The grain had been swapped. The border defenses had been exposed. My 10 brothers had walked into an ambush. None of it was the enemy's sudden attack. It was a trap laid out long in advance. Someone wanted the Shins destroyed. Someone wanted the Northern Army erased. Someone wanted to use the Shins' blood to cement their own power. And behind all of it, the Emperor himself. I didn't act. Not then. I didn't have the standing yet. A lone survivor of a condemned family marching into the capital without armies or allies would only become the second dead Shin. So I waited. I waited for the Shins to have a voice again. I waited for those who'd once believed in the family to gather once more. I waited for the moment when the truth could be seen by all. That moment finally came. War erupted on the northern border again. The border army lost battle after battle. The court needed someone who could stabilize the situation. The Emperor thought of the Shins. Or rather, he thought of the sway the Shin name still carried with it. An imperial envoy arrived at the old northern estate. He ordered me to retake command of the northern military. He stood in the main hall and sneered. Master Shin, His Majesty, mindful of the Shin's old service, offers you a chance to prove yourself anew. I looked at him. I laughed. Prove myself anew? When your courts slaughtered my entire family, did His Majesty offer them a chance to explain? The envoy's face went rigid. Shin Yen, watch your tongue. I rose to my feet slowly. My tongue? I'm the son of Shin Tianwe. I'm the younger brother of 10 Shin generals. I'm the one whose family you destroyed with a single word. Treason. The air in the hall froze. The envoy never expected such a response. I didn't kill him. I only had him carry a message back. Tell the Emperor, I'll go north. But I'll go carrying the name of the Shin family. And I'll make sure the world knows. The Shins never betrayed this dynasty. After the envoy left, Chuling Shuang stood beside me. You ready? I looked toward the training ground. There stood the Shin guards. Years in the making. Uniform armor. Weapons in hand. Resolve in every pair of eyes. Ready. The Shins have waited too long for this day. War erupted on the northern front. And I led the remnants of the Shin army back to the battlefield. That campaign showed the world the edge of the Shins' blade once more. The enemy thought the Shins were gone. They never realized that the youth who'd once lain in a broken shack had grown into the new master of the Shin house. I didn't charge recklessly. I used my father's strategies to hold the line. Steady as stone. 3 months later, total victory in the north. The news reached the capital. The people were in shock. People began to ask, if the Shins could hold the north, why were they condemned in the first place? The questions piled up. And this was the moment I'd been waiting for. On the day I returned to court, the entire capital crowded the streets. They wanted to see what kind of man Shin Yen, the traitor's son, truly was. I entered the imperial hall carrying the old Shin battle banner. The emperor sat at the highest point. Years had weathered his face, but the cold in his eyes remained unchanged. Shin Yen, you rendered great service in war. I'll restore the Shin family's honor. I met his gaze. Restore? Your Majesty, you think one sentence can bury the deaths of dozens of Shins? The court erupted in murmurs. The emperor's face darkened. How dare you? Do you know where you stand? I stepped forward, laid all the evidence at the foot of the throne. The ledgers from Blackwind Ridge, the grain records from that year, the testimonies of the northern veterans, my father's last letter. Every piece of it proves the Shins were set up. Wei Chongshan stood among the officials. His face went white. The emperor looked at him, and in that instant, everyone understood. Wei Chongshan tried to flee. Too late. The imperial guards took him. One by one, his crimes surfaced. The officials who'd framed the Shin family began to fall, one after another. The people finally learned the truth. The Shins, slandered for years, had never betrayed Great Qian. That day, for the first time, the emperor bowed his head. The Shin family was loyal. I'll restore their honor. I looked at him. There was no joy in my heart, only calm, because the dead never come back. Your Majesty, the Shins don't want an apology. The Shins want the world to know the truth. The emperor was silent for a long time. Then he gave the orders. The Shins, noble title restored. Shin Tianwe posthumously honored. The 10 Shin generals posthumously honored. The Shin ancestral hall rebuilt. And I I was given command of the northern front once more, named the new Marquis of Northgard. When I returned to the Shins, the 10 sisters-in-law stood before the ancestral hall. When Wan Qing looked up at the restored plaque of the Shin house, tears in her eyes. Shin Yen, you did it. I shook my head. Not me, them. I looked at the spirit tablets. My father, my 10 brothers, everyone who'd given their lives for the Shin name. In time, the Shins once again became the most respected family in Great Chien. The old northern estate was expanded. The Shin army was rebuilt. Chu Lingshuang commanded the women's battalion. When Wan Qing ran the household, each of the 10 sisters-in-law became an irreplaceable pillar of the family. And I never forgot that rainy night. The moment I woke up in that broken house. Back then, I just wanted to survive. Then I wanted the Shins to survive. And then, I wanted the world to know why the Shins fought, why they died, why they deserved every ounce of respect they were given. Years later, someone asked me, if you could choose again, would you walk this road? I stood on the northern wall of Northgard, looking at the horizon. My answer was one sentence: yes, because Shin blood never bows.